Inspector General Ed Quatrevo's recommendation to the city's Ethics Review Board to fire independent police monitor Susan Hutson.
Profile and hotly contested runoff between the incumbent Orleans Parish Sheriff Marlon Gusman and former police monitor Susan Hutson has seen its share of claims and counterclaims.
First at 10, there is a new sheriff in town, the very first woman sheriff in the city of New Orleans. Susan Hutson beat out longtime incumbent Marlon Gusman last Saturday.
Good morning to you. Sheriff Susan Hutson obviously having her share of challenges after taking office earlier this year. We talked very recently about the shakeup at the top.
Another controversy involving the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, this time involving an audit.
Yeah, investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein has been following a number of issues with the sheriff recently.
Breaking news right now, WDSU Investigates just obtained a subpoena served to the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office from the Office of Inspector General.
Hey yo, let me tell y'all about this story that got the whole city of New Orleans buzzing. It's about a woman who rode in from out of town, posted up like she had all the answers, and now I got the city pointing fingers. Sheriff Susan Hutson. Now before we dig in, let's get this straight. In the dirty South, they got this word, carpetbagger. That's somebody who ain't from the block. They just pull up from somewhere else, try to play boss, take over like they built the city brick by brick. That's Susan Hutson all day. Ain't born in the NO, ain't bred in the bayou, but she came through with a law degree and a whole lot of big talk. Susan had that Ivy League shine, University of Pennsylvania, then Tulane Law, practiced law in Texas, did her time in Corpus Christi as a defense attorney and city prosecutor. She even played watchdog out in Austin, but her biggest flex came out west. From 2007 to 2010, she was Inspector General, watching over the big dogs at LAPD. Yeah, that's the same LAPD, but scandal stacked higher than the second line trumpet solo.
This is my third city in which I've conducted oversight. So I was in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Police Department, which is a big office. And before that, I was in Austin, Texas at the Austin, with the Austin's Police Monitor's office. So we looked at the Austin Police Department. And so when I was in LA, this job came open and I went to law school in New Orleans. I went to Tulane Law. So I had a connection to the city. I saw they were headed into a consent decree. I saw they were headed into reform, and I was doing the exact same things in Los Angeles.
Then came Katrina. The storm didn't just drown the streets, it washed out a lot of secrets too, especially from the NOPD. Police wilding out, brutality all over, and the city was crying for someone to keep an eye on them. That's when Susan got tapped to be the independent police monitor in 2010. He was supposed to be the city's watchdog, keeping cops in line, calling out their mess.
Independent police monitor started here in New Orleans back in 2010 after former Mayor Nagin's administration faced controversy.
You needed independent scrutiny, and we still need it. That's the truth of it.
For 11 years, she held the post. But let's keep it real. Her rep, shaky, the kind of shaky that makes city officials twitchy. He had folks complaining about her style, saying she ain't following protocol, acting solo dolo instead of playing with the team. Then came the next big move. In 2021, she threw her name in the sheriff's race.
Police monitor Susan Hutson tells WDSU she plans to run for Orleans Parish Sheriff. She would face off against longtime incumbent Marlon Gusman in October. Hutson, who runs the NOPD watchdog group, says she has taken a leave of absence so she could campaign. The sheriff's office operates our city's jail, which is under a federal consent decree.
And guess what? She shocked the whole city. Knocked out Marlon Gusman, a man who had been rocking the badge for 17 years.
At 10, there is a new sheriff in town, the very first woman sheriff in the city of New Orleans. Susan Hutson beat out longtime incumbent Marlon Gusman last Saturday.
But don't get it twisted. Gusman had more dirty laundry than the homeless people under the Claiborne Bridge. Gusman was the old guard, but Susan came with them progressive promises. She talked that talk, the 3 C's, care, custody, and control. Had the young left-leaning folks behind her, and them white liberal walls was cheering too. The election tight as a mug. Susan pulled 53%, and don't get it mistaken, some serious money was moving behind the scenes. A whole $200K came from a Zuckerberg-backed group, FWD.us, aimed at pushing Gusman out. That kind of bread more than double Susan's own campaign stash. She ain't win this alone. She had tech billionaires playing puppet master behind the curtain. She got the badge, stepped into the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, and day one was already a mess. NOPD was sitting under federal oversight. Feds poking through everything cause of the dirty practices. Jail was under pressure. Staff members dipping. Back in February 2020, it had 586 employees. By October 2021, that dropped to 542. That's less boots on the ground, less eyes on the tears.
Monitors have found that we've made tremendous progress implementing the reforms of the consent decree, and we're hoping to achieve substantial compliance with all of the reforms by May of 2018.
The New Orleans Police Department says they're well on their way to ending their federally mandated consent decree program with the Department of Justice.
I think it's working. I think we're making improvements, and we've come a long ways in what it used to be, and we still have a ways to go.
The Department of Justice negotiated with the city to create the program in 2012. The purpose? To protect constitutional rights for residents, improve safety and security, and improve confidence in the New Orleans Police Department.
We believe that about May of next year, we'll be in what we call substantial compliance, and then we'll move into what we call a 2-year monitoring period, where we'll have to sustain that for 2 consecutive years.
Residents say they've seen the difference on the streets.
It's really given a lot of respect to the department and a lot of respect to citizens, because it's all about constitutional policing and being aware of our citizens' rights.
As long as we got all these people watching now, a lot of things that used to happen don't happen anymore.
Susan talk reform. She ain't about them old school hard-nosed tactics. She built a new arm, the Compliance and Accountability Bureau. It was supposed to spotlight all the flaws in the system. It mirrored to the mess. That mirror ain't show her reflection. Nah. Yet, by 2023, the city started mumbling, questions popping off, folks asking why this and why that. Jail security was shaky, deputies was quitting or slacking, and word on the street was she wasn't up to the job. But Susan, she stayed pressing forward, even tried to get a millage tax renewed, one that fed almost 20% of the jail's cash. That vote, too close to call, but she squeaked through, barely. Then came the jailbreak. New Orleans got rocked, multiple inmates busted out, left the facility like it was open house. Whole city in panic mode. State and city officials lit up Susan like a Mardi Gras float in the French Quarter. Press conference packed, headlines blazing, and Susan, man, she caught heat like the bottom of a crawfish pot. Soon as that jailbreak news hit the streets, the city lost its mind. Everybody trying to figure out how a whole set of inmates just ghosted. Wasn't no tunnels, no movie script tricks, just straight up negligence. And the face behind the negligence, Susan Hutson. Susan showed up to a city council meeting looking like she walked into a storm with no umbrella. They grilled her hard, not just about the escape, but about all the dirty laundry stacking up in her closet. They was talking budget gaps, overpopulated cells, busted security, and why it took her crew so damn long to tell the public what went down. And this ain't some random Tuesday. Nah, this escape popped off just weeks after Susan had been pushing the tax renewal for the sheriff's office, the same tax the city damn near voted against.
Come May, Orleans Parish voters will decide if they want to renew the 10-year-old law enforcement district millage. Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hutson says if passed, the millage will secure $13.1 million in annual funding. That money goes towards public safety, reentry programs, mental health services, and more.
Folks already mad, skeptical. Now they feel played. Like how you ask for more money, then turn around and lose prisoners like socks in the dryer. The pressure got so bad, Susan had to hit the brakes on her re-election campaign. She ain't say she's out for good, but she suspended it. Caught up in scandal with the city breathing down her neck, she had no choice.
Sheriff Susan Hutson has now officially announced that she is suspending her re-election campaign for sheriff. That election was scheduled for October. She said she is suspending the campaign.
The political wolves, they circling for blood. Governor Landry stepped in and called her out directly. He said this whole fiasco was on elected officials with no frontline experience. That's a cold jab at Susan. And he wasn't the only one talking greasy. State Representative Freeman was the first one on to say, yo, you need to resign.
As a team from the Department of Corrections starts evaluating the Orleans Parish Justice Center after Friday's jailbreak, one New Orleans state representative wants the head of the facility, Sheriff Susan Hutson, gone.
I think she should resign. I think there are more capable people to run this situation, and if she was capable of running the situation, she would have done it already.
Representative Amy Freeman is the first elected official calling for the sheriff to resign after 10 inmates broke into a cell, made a hole in the wall behind a toilet, and broke out of the jail.
DA Jason Williams, who once backed that campaign, now calling the jailbreak absurd and unprecedented.
I think it's safe to say I'm angry. This is absurd. This is an unprecedented jailbreak. I don't remember a single time in my lifetime in any American city where 11 people have been able to escape at one time.
The political betrayal was front row. Susan stood up at that press conference and took the mic like, I take full accountability. She said it straight. Then she dropped the curveball, claimed that the escape might have been an inside job, said there were broken locks and other gaps in security. Basically, she pointed at the system, but she is the system. You can't be captain of the ship and then blame the ocean when it sinks. She launched an internal investigation, but the city and state ain't trusting her to police her own mess. They want third-party eyes on this, full audit, outside the lines. Nobody buying her version till somebody else verified the facts. Meanwhile, the Louisiana Attorney General lit the whole thing up. Said somebody clearly dropped the ball, and there's no excuse for this. He talking like it's DEFCON 1. He pulled in Troop Nola and Colonel Hodges from the state police. Now it's all hands on deck. The city trying to put the pieces back together. Meanwhile, the sheriff's office was looking like it was held together with duct tape and a prayer. Even the incompetent mayor, Latoya Cantrell, aka Titi, had to slide with a reminder. She spoke on her office dropping over $577 million for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. She ain't said, but the message was loud. Y'all got the bread, so where the results at? But this ain't the first time Susan's had fingers pointed at her. Go back to 2013 when she was still the independent police monitor. The city's own inspector general came out swinging, dropped a letter on September the 29th of that year, telling the Ethics Review Board that Susan needed to be fired, not suspended, not warned, fired. He accused her of ethical misconduct and unprofessional misconduct. Said she had a pattern, not a mistake, not a slip-up, a pattern.
Brossette's proposal comes on the heels of Inspector General Ed Quatrevo's recommendation to the city's Ethics Review Board to fire independent police monitor Susan Hutson because of what he called a pattern of ethical misconduct and unprofessional conduct.
The letter he sent wasn't no whisper either. It was loud, public, and heavy. He said Susan was wilding out with autonomy, doing things outside the scope of her role, making the job about her, not the mission. The Ethics Review Board had to call a special meeting to address it. October the 23rd, 1 p.m., City Council Chamber. That ain't just oversight. That's a full-blown showdown. Somehow, some way, she kept her job. Slid through the cracks like water when they blew up the levees. Fast forward back to her sheriff's years, and it's still messy. A city audit dropped a bomb, saying Orleans Parish deputies got overpaid, like $250,000 overpaid under Susan watch. That's tax dollars floating off into the wind.
Now the New Orleans Inspector General has issued a report about another misstep by the sheriff, one that cost the taxpayers an untold amount of money, escalating the pay of some deputies to more than $100 an hour.
Folks still struggling in the hood, but the scandal ain't stopped there. A whole lawsuit popped off. Now here's where the house of cards start falling for real. See, you can dodge headlines and duck press conferences, but you can't run from paperwork in federal court. That's where Dr. David Trottenberg stepped in, former chief financial officer for OPSO. This dude wasn't just some desk clerk. He was high level, deep in the budget and the spending in the mix. And what he saw, he ain't like it one bit. October 25th, he slapped Sheriff Susan Hutson with a 20-page federal lawsuit. He came out swinging, saying straight up she fired him because he couldn't play dirty. Said she wanted him to help cover up illegal moves, and when he ain't complied, she booted him like a car parked on Orleans and Claiborne on Mardi Gras. His lawyer didn't even need to talk much. Said the lawsuit speaks for itself. And when you dig through the fine print, man, it's wild. Spartanburg saying Susan tried to misuse public funds, Louisiana state law violations. She wanted to play hotel manager with taxpayer money, stacking luxury hotel rooms during Carnival 2023. We talking high-end spots downtown, not for out-of-town law enforcement like the city agreed to reimburse. Nah, this was her inner circle, high-ranking OPSO staff, some of whom allegedly didn't even show up. The NO out here struggling with crime, staff shortages, and busted locks, and Susan out here living like it's Essence Fest every weekend. At $19K in hotel bills, he said it was shaded from the jump. He told her he opposed it, told her straight up it wasn't right, and according to that lawsuit, her response was ice cold. Stop investigating. If you don't, you'll get fired for insubordination. Next thing you know, boom, he gone. Now here's the thing, Susan ain't denied a hotel stay. She even tried to defend it to WDSU investigators, said it was part of the job, that it had purpose, but she ain't explained why rooms meant for staff when unused, why the receipts ain't matched the mission. And when you the sheriff, every dollar gotta be accountable, especially when the public trust already hanging by a thread. The lawsuit wasn't just some paperwork threat, it was a public gut punch. A CFO claiming retaliation, discrimination, wrongful termination, and misuse of funds. That's a full combo. Ain't no light jab. It's a haymaking to the image Susan been trying to sell.
WDSU Investigates uncovered that $19,000 was spent to put up OPSO employees in hotel rooms for Mardi Gras last year. Many of the rooms weren't used.
This lawsuit basically pulled back the curtain on a number of issues.
Rafael Goyeneche is the head of the Metropolitan Crime Commission. When it comes to those hotel rooms, a dog training company stepped in to foot the bill, but backed out.
It appears that if they were going to donate $19,000, it was going to be contingent upon the sheriff's offices purchasing 2 dogs and having all of their dogs trained with that firm.
In the suit, Thomas makes major accusations about Hutson and other employees.
The fact that the sheriff was allegedly involved or living or residing together with one of her senior staff members. A senior member of the administration's son was hired as a contract employee.
Sheriff Hutson responding in a statement that reads in part, "No terminations occurred in violation of any law or legal requirement."
You need to run the sheriff's office correct. You're a public servant. You need to conduct yourself like a public servant.
And this ain't even including the reputation she already had from back in her police monitor days. Multiple complaints followed her then. Folks been saying she was playing politics, acting solo dolo, and running her own show without coordination or structure. Same stuff following her now in the sheriff's office. Same lone wolf energy, but now she got a badge and a budget. Everywhere she stepped, controversy got a seat at the table. I picture the public trying to process all this. One minute she's the face of progressive law enforcement, next minute she's at the center of lawsuits, jailbreaks, and scandal after scandal. This woman came into the city like a storm in a sundress. Out of towner, big talk, law degree flexing, Zuckerberg money in her back pocket, and now the whole parish wondering if she was ever built for this job to begin with. But it don't stop here. The clock's still ticking, manhunt still going, and Susan, she holding pressers, claiming she taking accountability. But accountability ain't enough when the city bleeding. The people of New Orleans, they want action. They want transparency. And right now, all they got is questions. This ain't just about one escape, one lawsuit, or one sketchy hotel bill. It's the whole timeline, the whole pattern. Over a decade in New Orleans and everywhere Susan touched, it's been confusion, chaos, and controversy. Even back in her time as independent police monitor, folks in the city government was constantly at odds with her. And when that 2013 letter dropped exposing her for ethical misconduct and unprofessional conduct, it wasn't no light accusation. That man ain't had nothing to gain from airing her out like that. He said flat out, her behavior wasn't just shady, it was a pattern. Like she ain't played by the rules, even when she was supposed to be watching others. Somehow, she still made it to the sheriff's seat. See, it was that 2021 election, but the system gave her her a new lane. After 11 years as police monitor, she dipped out of that role and decided to run for sheriff of Orleans Parish. And against incumbent Marlon Guzman, that race got hot. Two Democrats going head to head, but with totally different vibes. Susan was pitching reform, talking about her 3 C's: care, custody, and control. It sounded good on paper. Young voters ate it up, especially in them uptown white progressive neighborhoods. She pulled 35% of the vote in one round, and with the help of a big runoff push, she beat Guzman with 53%. Fast forward to 2022, she stepped into office, and New Orleans law enforcement still under the Fed's thumb because of the NOPD's long history of abuse. Constant decrees still hanging over the city like a dark cloud. Meanwhile, inside the jail, she faced one of the biggest problems: not enough deputies. Staff had dropped tremendously in just over a year. Jail overcrowded, violence rising, deputies burnt out. The results? Ain't no one see no major change. Problems got bigger, not smaller. Then boom, the escape. One moment that exposed every crack in the foundation. Defective locks, slow response, zero communication with the public until it was already out of control. And the worst part, nobody's shocked. That's the problem. When chaos feels normal, the system already failed. Our folks asking real questions. Was Susan ever qualified to run a jail? Not a monitor, not a watchdog, but the actual operator of a dangerous, complex, deeply broken facility. Even her biggest allies started falling back. The Jason Williams used to stand next to her. Now that boy saying this was absurd. Her whole image as a reformer, as a change agent, taking hits from every angle. And yet, she's still on camera, still holding press conferences, still saying she got this under control. But talk don't fix broken locks. Talks don't bring back public trust. Talk don't stop inmates from disappearing into the streets. And with her re-election campaign now on pause, the streets of New Orleans whispering one thing real loud: she done lost the city. In a place where politics been dirty, public safety hangs by a thread, and where trust and authority is already low, Susan Hutson ain't brought back no healing, just more headlines, more scandal, more excuses. The woman who once walked into New Orleans talking about care, custody, and control, now she's standing on the edge of a legacy built on chaos, cracks, and confusion. Some say she came to save the city. Others say she came to break it further. One thing's for sure, her story ain't done yet, but the people of New Orleans are already flipping to the next page.